Hello, once again. It's been a long time, but welcome to the introduction to Communication for Development, best known as C4D. This presentation is just going to be about what is communication for development. The voice you're listening to belongs to me, Hannah H. Tarindwa. I am an advanced Gold Toastmaster. I am a writer. I'm a professional speaker as well as a creativity consultant. I'll be giving you my details, my email contact. If you need any assistant or creativity consulting, just get in touch with me. It is always good to remember that what we learn becomes part of who we are. With that in mind, now let's start on the definition for C4D. So like M&E, communication for development is an ongoing process. It's continuous, but it is collecting and sharing critical data pertaining to events and activities related to the project that occurs during the whole project life cycle. So M&E will be collecting information, monitoring and evaluating and seeing how things work. But with C4D, it's a process of collecting and sharing that critical data. And you will understand more as I go through the 5 sessions that we're going to have after today. So what is the purpose of communication for development? The key purpose, the first one, is to strengthen dialogue with project stakeholders. So dialogue again is about communication, and it's two-way. When we say there's a dialogue, it means that there's communication coming from both sides. It's not one way. And that dialogue is between the recipients of a project, the associates, and relevant authorities in order to enhance local ownership of programs or interventions and to generate a sustainable impact. So it doesn't, if a program happens and the locals don't feel obliged to keep it or they don't feel involved, probably the impact of the project will be short felt, or it won't even have an impact on a community because they won't really feel like they were involved in the process anyway. And the second major purpose of communication for development is using it as a tool for social and political transformation. And this is done by encouraging both participation and interaction. So no one is left out. If people want to observe, they can actually communicate that we don't understand what's happening. Can we observe? And then after they observe, they can ask questions. Or if they have questions first, then they should be allowed to communicate those questions. And C4D uses specific methods and instruments. It's really just 3 major ones. The first one being interpersonal communication, where you have a one-on-one communication with these various stakeholders, whether it's the sponsors, the donors, whether it's the local authorities, or the recipients of it. So there's the project managers or whoever is in charge of the project through their communications department, or they have to then speak on a face-to-face one-on-one basis, or they can use community media. So whatever the media that the community uses, you can communicate development or whatever the projects or interventions that will be going on with them. So community media can take various forms, for example, plays, road shows, or even radio, television, drive-through TV or cinema, depending on the project and where it is. So let's always remember that projects are not only meant for rural areas, even for urban communities. So community media, what is the media that that community uses? If they use WhatsApp, you might need to use that as a method of communication. And then of course, that's where the modern information technologies come in: email, Skype, Zoom, Teams, whichever mode or instrument works for that community, what they feel comfortable with. So we are going to be presenting all 5 topics of C4D, and the first one from next week is the principles of C4D. We are also going to look at areas where communication for development matters. It's important to understand that it shouldn't just be anywhere and anytime. And then we're looking at the tools. What tools are needed for that communication for development to be efficient? And the stages, because in as much as it goes through the project lifecycle from conception to close and even beyond in terms of impact, we need to understand what are the various stages of C4D. And then we'll look finally at the strategic communication development model, because communication must be done strategically. In conclusion, I want to just share this Chinese proverb that says, "Tell me and I forget, teach me and I remember, involve me and I learn." So it's very important, if you're going to engage in communication for development, to remember this proverb, because telling someone is not really communication, because you can tell someone and not get feedback. You won't know if they understood, if they agree, how they feel, and sometimes you might even not learn yourself. If you teach, teaching usually is done over a short period of time. It's not a continuous thing. But if someone is involved in the communication, then it means that there's reciprocity. Then there's ownership of that communication. There's ownership of whatever activity that will be happening. And that person will learn. They internalize. So when we talk of learning, we are internalizing messages. And so it's very, very important to understand and remember this proverb as you engage in community communication for development. All right. So that's it from me today. I look forward to seeing you next week. Please, if you like the video, subscribe to the channel and like it, share it with your friends. If you know anybody who's been wondering, how do you communicate project activities without the monitoring and evaluation aspect? You see, with the communication, it's just talking. It's about discussing. How do we get things, how are things happening? You know, a lot of times we find that in the chain of communication, there are some people who are left out, some people who are overly involved, and everybody's wondering what's happening. And so this will be very beneficial in understanding what the communication for development is, what it's for, how it should be used appropriately. And if you've got any more questions, or you've got concerns, or you would like to also do a presentation on this YouTube channel, feel free to contact me on maccafrica@gmail.com. This is where we share knowledge from Africa to the world. So if you're African and you want to share, please get in touch with me, Hannah H. Tarindwa, from my mind to yours. Have a great day.